Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Prescott Virtual Town Hall meeting for businesses, sole proprietors, and nonprofits. I want to thank everyone who is participating by Zoom or phone. And before we begin, I want to acknowledge that this is kind of an unprecedented time. Please have some patience with us as we get the technology figured out, but we hope that this is a helpful time for you all. What we know is that our businesses are such a vital part of our community and our economy. The goal today is to provide information from experts from Prescott all the way to Washington, D.C. to help our businesses navigate through this uncertain time. I also want to address the governor's executive orders from this week and last. By now, you should be hopefully fairly clear about your business status as essential or not. The city's committed to following the governor's order and guidance. We do not intend to impose additional restrictions on your ability to conduct business. However, physical distancing and hygienic practices are your duty as a business owner and a citizen. In my video message yesterday, I discussed taking personal responsibility to keep yourself, your business, and your neighbors safe during this unprecedented time. I have absolute, complete faith in our city and all of you as businesses serving the community. So thank you for all you're doing to keep our community and our economy moving forward. I also want to say to our business owners, nonprofits, sole proprietors, I don't want anybody feeling like you're alone or out on your own on this. We're all in this together. We're going to get through this together. And I just want to encourage you that we're here to help you navigate this difficult time. This is a city council study session, so I will at this time call the meeting to order, and I'd like to recognize any elected officials and have our clerk conduct a roll call.
Well, Heather is on mute.
I need everybody at your personal computer or phone to go ahead and mute your device, if you would, please. In order to call roll for the council, we are going to unmute everyone on our end of things. So if you could be muted on your end of things, except, of course, for our council members, we'll take a quick roll call. Thank you.
Here.
Hi, Kathy Rusing's here.
I'll call you Mayor Pro Tem Moore is here.
I'm here.
Blair. Councilman Good.
I'm here.
Councilman Ruthie.
I'm here.
Councilwoman Scholl.
Gonna get up and go yell at a kid. Something going on. So everyone who's now working at home for the first time is like trying to figure out this. We're all supposed to be like so lucky. Like it's the same. Like here he knows the etiquette. Like you get on mute. You start muted. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. That was fun. We want to save time to get as many questions answered today for our businesses as possible. So we're going to run through a slate of presenters, and you can see those on your screen. So we'll not be seeking comments or questions from council members, but I do appreciate them being here for our businesses today and every day. Additionally, I'd like to recognize city staff who've been working on City Manager Michael Lamar, Finance Director to assist businesses with assistance. Also, City Clerk Sarah Sipe, Development Services Coordinator Chelsea Walton, and Community Outreach Manager John Heine. Finally, I also want to thank our congressional delegation, Congressman Paul Gosar, Senator Martha McSally, and Senator Kirsten Sinema. There have been many requests these past few weeks, and our delegation has been extremely responsive. I can say personally that I've spoken to Senator Sinema and Senator McSally this week, and I know that Mayor Pro Tem has spoken to Congressman Gosar as well, and they're all doing a tremendous job serving us here locally and making sure they take care of all the issues that we are facing. There's some ground rules for today's meeting, which I'd like to just briefly cover. You can see them on your screen. Everybody's going to be muted at this point. There is a Q&A format that you can read there for yourselves with some details about what you put in the chat line when you do want to ask a question in the chat line. So make sure you take a look at that and note your questions as we go through the presentations. We're going to try to get through all questions. However, if we miss you, you will have the opportunity to send an email to city staff, and they will promptly reply to your question. And that is at communications@prescottaz.gov, communications@prescottaz.gov. Because we got started late, I'm going to tell you that we will go a little bit longer than 2:30 today to try to get through the presentations and to as many questions as we can. All right, we're going to get started, and our first speaker is Representative Paul Gosar. Congressman Gosar, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mayor.
Thank you so much for being here. Thanks. Yes, I can. Thank you for being with us. I know you've got a busy schedule, and we really appreciate all that you're doing to help us folks here in Prescott.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for your, always being on the spot. I mean, you guys are ahead of the curve, and I wanted to start right there. I hope everybody is taking good care of themselves, because this is one thing that we should be able to do out of this, is making sure that we're taking care of ourselves health-wise. So what we're going to talk about is the CARES Act, and this is the relief package, the third of the relief packages that has come forward. And I want to hit really only 3 subject matters right now, because they're where most of the questions are coming from. And thanks to Mayor Pro Tem Billy Orr, she contacted me yesterday, and we were on with the Treasury. And the first part is on about the Paycheck Protection Program. There was reluctance from many of the banks to getting involved in here because of how Treasury had orchestrated it. There were some changes based upon our information. So what ends up happening is the interest rate went from 0.5% to 1%, and that this unlimited no liability to the bank for this relief package. It sits at $350 billion that was allocated by Congress. As of 8 o'clock this morning, when we had my first conference call, already $1 billion had gone out the door. So it's going to go fast. But there's a promise that if there's more money that's needed, we'll make sure that everybody is covered. If you offer it to one, you have to offer it to all. And so from that standpoint, everybody should be able to get the fast track program. You can go to the SBA.com or the USTreasury.com. There's a 2-page quick filing that you take to your bank, and you can have your money very, very quickly. We want to make sure that everybody knows that that's available as of right now. And so we want to make sure that you're getting involved with that. If you have any problems with any banks, please let us know. Go to my website. We'll have updated information as things start turning out. But we want to make sure that everybody understands this is to protect those workers, trying to make sure that our small businesses are up and running and ready to take off when we get out of this mess, which hopefully will be shortly, and faster maybe in Arizona than any other places. The other thing I want to touch base with is what everybody's calling money in the mail, which is your direct tax rebates. Now, this is $1,200 per individual and $500 per child. Who's eligible? Well, if you're a single individual making $75,000, you're eligible. If you're the head of a household, if you're making under $112,500, you're eligible. If you're a married couple making under $150,000 and less, you're eligible. Now, this will be direct deposit based upon your tax information on 2018 or 2019 if you file them. If you're under Social Security, you don't have to file anything. This will be direct deposited based upon the allowances under Social Security. Those should be coming up in the next couple of weeks. Like I said, it will go direct deposit. If they don't have a accurate number for you, they will be sending it to you in the mail. So I suspect if you haven't got anything in two weeks, please let us know so that we can make sure that there's not a glitch in the process. The last thing I want to make sure, because of its importance to Prescott and the Yavapai area, is what about air service? Well, in this package, Congress put money in here to make sure that there was the essential air service was not interrupted. There was $56 million that was applied to the essential air service. It also provided $10 billion in grants through the Airport Improvement Program that supports the projects and operations around the country. So that should also be a big benefit. So from that standpoint, there's a number of other provisions here. If you have any questions and you want direct assistance, you can contact my office, and particularly Rory Burke, who's happy to answer any questions, and he'll be taking some of the questions at the end of this time frame, just because I have to get on another conference call, because at the same time we have an attack by the Russian government on our oil and gas and energy portfolio. So we're scrambling to try to get everything covered. But you can reach Rory at rory.burke@mail.house.gov. That's RORY.Burke, BURKE, @mail.house.gov. So I will end it there, because I think more importantly is being able to answer questions at the other end. So Mayor, once again, thank you for your stalwart advance and letting me join in and maybe getting some of that information out that will help small businesses and individuals waiting on the resources at this unprecedented time. Thank you.
Congressman, thanks so much for jumping on here and sharing with our people. We pray for safety for you, and thanks again for all you do for us here in Prescott.
You're certainly welcome. Thank you back, and thanks for everything that you guys do.
All right. Thank you, Congressman. So we're going to move to now Rory Burke. Rory is in Congressman Paul Gosar's office. He is the legislative director for Congressman Gosar. Rory Burke, can you hear me? Rory, we're trying to locate your phone number in the waiting room. Can you send via chat your phone number? We are locating Rory. Rory, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. This is Rory. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Rory. Thank you so much for making time to be with us today. We have a bunch of small businesses, sole proprietors, and nonprofits on the town hall right now, well over 200 different logins. And we're very interested in, particularly with the CARES Act and the Paycheck Protection Program. I know you've been on the front lines of this legislation, so thanks for jumping on and sharing with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mayor, for having me, and thank you for everyone being on the call. I think Congressman Gosar did a very good job pointing out some of the more focus points for you all in this legislation. As you know, there's been 3 phases. The CARES Act is the 3rd phase, which is fairly comprehensive. There's a lot of topics and a lot of questions you might have. I think Congressman Gosar started off with the good ones for you all, and then I wanted to maybe elaborate on a few and then maybe ask any questions that anyone might have. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great, Rory. We're going to go through all the presentations, and then at the end, we're going to answer questions if you can hang on for that Q&A period.
Great. That sounds perfect. And I'm sure there's plenty of other insight people have to offer. So I'll just hit on a couple things. And if there's anything I can elaborate on, I'd be happy to do so. As far as taxes, another somewhat more insight would be that employers of all sizes that face closure orders or suffer economic hardship due to the coronavirus crisis, they continue to pay employers that are furloughed may be eligible for 50% credit on up to $10,000 of wages paid to those employers. And employers would be able to delay the payment of their 2020 payroll taxes until 2021 and 2022. I wanted to emphasize that Congressman Gosar has also been pushing further for a full suspension of all payroll taxes for 2020, and we'd be happy to keep you all updated on that, and we'd appreciate your support for that as well, if that's something you'd be interested in. And I know that Congressman Gosar went over a lot of the small business, the individual provisions, and the essential air provisions already. And I would be happy to really address anything further that anyone might have questions on, as far as trying to drag everyone down with too much redundant information. I don't want to do that. So if there's any specific questions, I'd be happy to try and address those. And of course, if we can't answer them now, we're happy to track down any resources or the answers to the questions you have and follow up ASAP. And I just want to reiterate that our website does have a lot of resources, information, and I do recommend checking that out very often.
Yeah, very good, Rory. Can you give the audience here your email again? I know that the congressman did that, but I just want to make sure everybody has your email address that they could reach out to you that way.
Definitely. My email is rory.burke, RORY.BURKE @mail.house.gov. And if you reach out to me, I promise I will follow up with you ASAP, and we'll track down any resources or answers you may need.
Yeah, very good. And just kind of as an overview, you know, sitting out there, maybe someone doesn't really know anything about the Paycheck Protection Program. This is a program where it's a 2-page application. The congressman mentioned that it's a pretty simple application that you then take to your banker, and then the banker submits that to the Treasury. Is that correct, Rory?
Yes, and there has been some certainly sort of a lot of hoopla in the news about how this rollout is going to happen and how effective and smooth it's going to go. We've gotten some decent guidance from the Treasury, and they're releasing more guidance, on a daily, if not hourly basis. So we're certainly monitoring that, and we're trying to provide all the information to everybody that is interested. And if anyone's feeling like they're missing any information, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll answer those questions as best we can.
Yeah, very good. And it sounds like it did get up and running today, Rory, but folks can apply all the way out to June. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. And there was, I guess, if you saw Secretary Mnuchin, I think this morning was touting the success, and some of the banks nationally had started to lend. I think Congressman Gosar mentioned that. There is, however, some a lack of confidence among rural banks at the moment. We're certainly monitoring that situation very closely, and we're hoping that that will be resolved very soon.
Yeah, very good. And I think the encouragement here is we want Prescott to have the most per capita applications in there in the United States. And so I'd encourage everybody, if you haven't already started down the path of applying for this program, that you would get on it immediately and try to get your application in next week or as soon as you can. So Rory, thanks for jumping on here. Thanks for hanging out towards the end when we get questions. I'm certain that we'll have some specific questions for you.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to move on to our next presenter. Jerry Deniston is with the Yavapai College Small Business Development Center. Welcome, Jerry. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks so much for being on the call. Thanks for being a local resource for our businesses, sole proprietors, and nonprofits on this issue. If you can give us just a couple minute presentation about the program from your perspective and how you can help people, and then give out some information where we can contact you.
Sure. And I think I sent in like 3 slides that you might want to show. The Paycheck Protection Program is available. We've got number one, you should still be applying for the COVID-19 relief program, the Economic Injury Disaster Program, because that is, that's a 30-year long-term loan program at 3.75% for businesses, and that includes the advance, the up to $10,000 advance. So that in particular, that's the only way you're going to get the up to $10,000 advance, and that's for every small business, sole proprietor, independent contractor, etc. So we highly recommend that you do apply for that, because the advance is not, you do not have to repay that. It is simply cash in the pocket of the small business owner as quickly as possible until the loan goes through. And there's no obligation to accept the loan either. So if after you have received the advance and then you talk with an SBA loan officer, you can say, no, thank you, I don't want the loan. So there's no obligation to accept the loan. So now on the Paycheck Protection Program, if you'd scroll down, what we do know, and I can only quote what we do know from the SBA. You go the other direction, please. The Paycheck Protection Program is intended to help employers keep their employees on payroll, ideally at 100%. But if you can't keep them at 100%, but you can maintain them at 50%, then a certain percentage of that will be forgiven if this is the forgivable loan that everybody's hearing about. So if you are able to keep your employees on payroll for 8 weeks, the full 8 weeks of this program, at 100% at their current salary before what you were paying them before the disaster, then the entire loan can be forgiven. But currently it is a loan that you do apply for. The information that we have received from the SBA is that currently only SBA approved express lenders can actually handle this loan. It does go through SBA approved lenders, but if they aren't, but not all of them are express lenders. I know the SBA is working to correct that and make it available through all lenders, but that, to my knowledge, until I hear from the SBA directly that exists that way, that isn't the case that we understand. It did go up to 1%. That is absolutely correct. It is a fixed rate 2-year loan now at 1%, not at 0.5%. And if you scroll down to another slide, I think I have a slide with the lenders that we do know. These are, nope, you went too far. Those are the lenders that we do know locally who are participating in the Paycheck Protection Program. National Bank of Arizona is up and running. They have a link on their website to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program. Foothills Bank, 1AZ Credit Union, and Chase Bank do not yet have that information on their websites, but my understanding is that they are participating. We're hearing conflicting information about whether or not you have to currently be a customer of one of these banks in order to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program. I know some banks are saying that they're only doing this for their current customers. National Bank of Arizona has told me that they are accepting new customers, and they will handle the Paycheck Protection Program for any new customer, anyone who comes in and sets up a checking account. But you do have to have a bank account with the local bank in order to participate in the Paycheck Protection Program. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the slide that's down below that, which is the SBA Debt Relief under the CARES Act. This is a program directly from the SBA. Any business that has an existing SBA 7A loan that they've been making payments on, the SBA, starting after March 27, the SBA will now pay the next 6 months of that loan. So that's any SBA loan that you may have existing. You can go to your bank, talk to your bank and say, I want to have the SBA start those loan payments. Some banks have already agreed to defer a certain number of months of loan payments. So you have a choice as a business owner to say, I want the SBA loan payments to start after the deferment ends, or I want to cancel the deferment and start the SBA loan payments right now. If your bank has given you, for example, 6 months of a deferment on the loan payments, and you choose to have the SBA loan payments start 6 months later, you have then, for all intents and purposes, you have 1 year of not having to pay those SBA loans. So this is a phenomenal program as far as I'm concerned. So if you have an existing SBA loan, go talk to your lender, or more than one. Go talk to your lender and see what can be done about having the SBA start making those payments for you. That was, those are the updates that I have. The SBDC, we are here to assist. Ruth Ellen Alinsky is our full-time business advisor in the Verde Valley. And Karen Eads on my team work out of the Prescott Valley office. Right now we're working remotely, but we are here available to work with any small business in Yavapai County to assist with the whole process of applying for these loans, answering any questions that you have, helping you through the process. You just need to register. It's confidential, free counseling, confidential counseling. We are funded by the Small Business Administration and Yavapai College. Our services are no cost to any business that we work with. You just need to register at yc.edu/SBDC to become a client of the SBDC so we can work with you going forward. And you can call 928-717-7232 to make an appointment. Catherine Anderson is checking that number daily and forwarding those messages to the team, depending on where the business owner is located. Thank you very much, Mayor Mangarelli. I'll just wait for additional questions at the end.
Jerry, thank you so much for that information. It's a great overview for the different programs that are a part of the CARES Act that can help our local businesses here. Thanks also for those contacts that are up on the screen here for our people. Yavapai College is such a great partner in our community, and we really, really appreciate more than ever during this time the assistance that you're offering all of our businesses, sole proprietors, and nonprofits. So thank you, Jerry, so much for being on the town hall today, and I'm sure we'll have some questions for you later. All right, we're going to move on to our next presenter, and that is Terry Drew with Northern Arizona Council of Governments. Terry, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can. Thank you so much. And
well, Terry,
welcome.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being on the town hall, and you're on.
Thank you so much. And I'm just going to speak briefly on two primary services that NACOG offers through the Workforce Development Board. One is dislocated workers, and dislocated worker is anybody who's separated from income. So that includes all the folks that are being furloughed or laid off, or even having a reduction in hours. We provide a wealth of services to those individuals, including assistance with filing unemployment, which is pretty difficult right now, resume writing, job referrals, and referrals to community services. The job development is really important and something that we're working hard on right now. There's several manufacturers and local businesses that are seeking employees and workers. We're trying to connect those folks, and I just wanted to talk a moment about difficulty of trying to match individuals with employers. Currently, with the $840 per week, that's $600 from the federal government and $240 from the Arizona UI benefits. That's $21 an hour. It's $3,360 a month. A lot of our folks that are calling in need of workers are in the $12 and $15 an hour range. So that's $480 a week or $600 a month before taxes. While we understand very definitely that this unemployment opportunity and the paycheck assistance programs are meant to infuse and stimulate spending in the country, We also know that this is a competition for employers. So employers out there that are looking to hire, please reconsider any temporary salary adjustments that you can make. It's a hard argument with individuals to say, you know, stay at home for $200 or $300 more, or go out into the community and work. A lot of our work that we're doing right now, especially with dislocated workers, is to provide them with some case management. And the case management is to help them through a thought process of returning back to your businesses and your companies with as much ease as possible. One of the ways that we do that is we support 100% of training and tuition for individuals who want to upgrade their skills during this downtime. And most all of that, well, actually all of those training programs are online and accessible to individuals. So we can pay that books and tuition for individuals simply because they've been dislocated from work. So send folks over to us. Our phone number is 928-778-1422. They can go to NACOG.org as well. We realize that folks don't have access to Wi-Fi, so we've opened up our parking lot at 221 North Marina in downtown Prescott for Wi-Fi access to help individuals get online and access unemployment insurance or job opportunities. We also are doing curbside eligibility. So instead of food, we're bringing papers and packets out to individuals. They're taking those home or sitting in their cars and filling out that paperwork and bringing it back to our folks, because we are not open to the public, but we are open for service from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And Mayor, I'll stop there and wait for questions later on.
Terry, thank you so much for that information and all you do here in our community. And I'm sure we'll be asking you a few questions here later on. So thanks for hanging on the call. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. We're going to move to Senator Martha McSally, who is on our town hall today. I just heard a few minutes ago that she was able to jump into the town hall. I know she's short on time and always running from one thing to the next. But Senator McSally, can you hear me?
I can. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you so much for making time to be with us today.
Absolutely. Sorry, I jumped on a little bit later. I don't want to be redundant. I'm driving now too, but I have you on Bluetooth, so I'm driving safely. I just want to say, I know we're in unprecedented times here. You all know that. We're going to defeat this virus. We're going to get the economy back on track. I know you've already heard about a lot of pieces of the CARES Act that we put together in order to support small businesses and to support families and workers who have been impacted by this. I just want to share a couple of things. As we put this together, I want to make sure you understand what our intent was. Speed was the first thing. The federal government and speed are normally not in the same sentence. And so we wanted to ensure that whatever we did could be executed quickly, and that ideally it's not having everybody having to stand, be in line for one government agency having to process everything, which is what obviously happens with the unemployment. And so the key was speed, and the second key was, to the max extent possible, we're trying to keep employers and employees connected to each other. And I know this is not a normal thing to think about as small businesses. You've laid people off. We're asking you to hire them back on, put them back on your payroll, pay them, even if they have no work to do. And again, I know that's not like normal thinking of hardworking business people like all of you, but that is preferable for us for a number of reasons. One is it allows you to hibernate to the max extent possible, but stay kind of connected as a business family. There's societal benefits to this. There's psychological benefits to this. And then as we come out of the downturn, you don't have to start looking for a workforce and employees again. So this paycheck protection provision, which was really the brainchild of Marco Rubio and Susan Collins, working with the SBA, but and using banks and credit unions, the intent was get the money from the federal government out to local financial institutions, to the employer, to the employee, in order to hold on, keep the payroll going, pay the health insurance if you were doing that, rent, mortgage, utilities, in order to just hold it together as much as you can with the downturn we have to help us get through the other side. So I know some banks are already executing those today. Some others are still working through the guidance before they're able to do that. We're in constant communication with Treasury. I have Borden from my team. I think he is on the line. He's talking to them all hours of the day and night, trying to ensure that this thing rolls out, because we've already heard this morning, some banks are still waiting for additional guidance, whereas other banks and credit unions have actually started to move out here. So the key is, I would say though, whoever you have your relationship with right now, whatever financial institution you have a relationship with, is going to be the best way for you to get access to this, because they already know you. You either bank with them, or you have a loan with them, or some other relationship with them already that will make this likely faster. And to the unemployment piece, we were on the phone yesterday with Secretary of Labor, Secretary of Treasury. We had concerns about making sure that we were not incentivizing people to not work. Most people want to work, but we wanted to make sure, for that mismatch in the labor pool. The key is the underlying laws for unemployment still apply. Nobody can quit their job and then go file for unemployment. They actually have to be laid off. So they can't say, oh, I'm going to get paid more money if I just file for unemployment. And keep in mind, the state unemployment system, they're trying to ramp up, but there's going to be a delay before people can get that money. But if a business were to small business brings the employees back on, they say, hey, you come back on, we furloughed you, we laid you off, but here, you're going to get your pay that is the typical pay that you got while you stay home, and they have that job, then they don't qualify for unemployment. So we know many people have already been laid off. We're trying to prevent more from being laid off, and the whole Paycheck Protection Plan, the intent was to try and bring people back on and keep them connected to employers instead of having them all go into the unemployment line. That's not going to work for every situation, but that was our intent. And it's so important for the self-employed, the sole proprietors, the independent contractors to realize that they too qualify for this Paycheck Protection Program. Many have been deeply impacted by this situation, and they have no revenue coming in, so they can go get that support as well. And the guidance is out as of last night on exactly what paperwork you need to bring in order to get access to it. So I'll stop there. Borden Hoskins is on the phone to answer any deeper technical questions, but I'll keep listening in and can answer questions as well as you continue on with the town hall. God bless you all for all you're doing, and let's get through this. We're going to do it together.
Senator, thank you so much for making time to be with us today and for working so hard in DC to get this passed and to make it available. And then thank you as well just for continuing to work out the kinks in this thing. And thanks for the conversation we had earlier this week and making yourself available. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, we're going to move on to Shari Heine, who is the CEO, president of the Prescott Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Shari, to the town hall.
Thank you, Mayor Mangarelli, and welcome, and thank you to everybody who helped put this together today. Chelsea's going to put up a sheet that I put together, but with the impact of COVID-19 on our local businesses, many of us are in different aspects of this. Some of us are essential businesses, some of us are gearing up to work harder, and some of us are kind of downscaling and going curbside like some of our restaurants and such. So what I wanted to do is put together 6 points. These points we actually followed ourselves as a Chamber of Commerce, and they're really good points for everybody to take a look at. So number 1, for your business, and I hate to say this, but prepare for a negative economic impact. Make sure that you're looking at your capital and you're able to expand your credit line. Obviously, look into the SBA injury disaster loans and the Paycheck Protection Program like we've been talking about. With your staffing, develop a staffing plan with various levels of customer and revenue. Think about what it looks like as an 80% scenario plan. Check in with your insurance provider. Make sure you understand your coverage and your options. And as it relates to your customers, make your place of business as hygienic as possible and communicate what you are doing to your customers so they feel comfortable right now. I think that's one thing that we're hearing a lot in the public eye right now. So if you're a business, please make sure that you're really making sure everybody knows what you're doing. Really important. Check in with them and modify everything. Make sure you're communicating really well. This is a real scary time for everybody, so communication is key. Really check your HR policies regarding remote working, sick leave, compensation during health crisis, and try to ensure that your policies are flexible and non-punitive as possible. And make sure that sick employees should be encouraged to stay home. And you really have to be supportive. Everybody handles crisis in different ways, so I really emphasize that part of it. For number 4, for your workforce, this is a time where cross-training employees is a key so that daily schedules can continue uninterrupted by potential employee absency. So you just want to make sure that you got everybody trained and cross-trained and able to pick up the pieces if you have a situation going on there. So I think that's really important. For your cash flow, communicate with your landlord or tenants and lenders about requesting some flexibility here. If you haven't had that conversation yet, now's the time. If you run into problems, reach out to colleagues that can potentially help you. And I think one of the most important things here is you have to take care of yourself. This is really important. I've talked to so many people that are losing sleep. We're all scared, but we're all together in this, like Mayor has mentioned earlier. So you need to be eating well, sleeping well, exercising, taking care of yourself in this time of stress, and making sure that you're staying safe as well. And of course, we've heard it all too many times before, but wash your hands all the time and don't touch your face or anyone else, because it really does matter. And I'm so proud to say that we are working. One of the things that happened several weeks ago is all the chambers and all the economic development folks in Yavapai County have been meeting twice a week, and we are working together to make sure all the businesses in Yavapai County are supported the way they need to be. So you should know that there's a huge support team out there for all of you. We want to make sure that you know that. We're working on a website right now that will be that we'll all be using. But for now, you could go to prescott.org for information. We have all the information there. We're working so closely with SBDC and NACOG and all the other partners to make sure that you have help. And this includes every business. And with that, I will wait until the end for any questions.
Shari, thank you so much for being on the town hall, and thanks for that great information. All right, I want to remind folks that you can start logging in your questions on the chat. You can see the chat down below there. We do have some protocols for logging in your questions. If you take a look at that, you need to enter your name and business, who the question's directed to. If you can give us at least a brief idea of what the question is, or you can write it out completely and then let us know if you want to ask it live, or we can have our clerk read your question. All right, we're going to move on to our next presenter, and that is my good friend Adam Rutherford, who's with Shute and Hilgendorf CPA firm. Adam, welcome to the town hall. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, thank you, Mayor Mangarelli. Thanks for holding this event and inviting us to it. A lot of what we have seen from clients is there's so many programs they don't even know where to start or which one they apply for. So what we did is we created this that you pulled up now is as far as the first things people will be eligible for, or the fastest, and what they're most likely to be eligible for. So the first one is if you have an existing SBA loan, the 6 months of payments are automatic. We have a lot of clients that have called their bank about it, and the bank has already implemented it. So they didn't even need to bother, but we still recommend calling to make sure that that is going to happen for them and they're not going to take out their payments. The next one is the Economic Disaster Loan Grant, which is the $10,000 grant. It's available to businesses under 500 employees, and you can apply directly through the SBA's website. I've done the application all the way to the end just to see what it was. and it is a very simple application. I've heard that the lending is supposed to be within 3 days, or at least that's what they've said, but I've heard it's iffy if that's happening, but that's the quickest way apparently to get money. The next one, and even if you apply for that one and get it, you can still apply for the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP loan. That one is the most comprehensive. It gives the most funding. It's the most help to any business that's eligible for it, which is about anybody with an employees that's been affected by this. If you receive the grant and then apply for the PPP program and get that loan, they just roll in your economic disaster loan and grant into the new program, and that original $10,000 grant you received. But the PPP loan is based on 2.5 times your average monthly payroll for the past year, and that's the amount of the loan you can get. And then you reapply later on to your bank after the 8-week period and support all the expenses you've had, and you can have up to all of it forgiven through that loan. And 75% of it has to be used for payroll, but you can also use it for mortgage interest, not the principal, but the interest, rent payments, and utilities to go along with that. And with that program, I think a couple of people have already said it, but our recommendation is to contact your bank that you've already banked with. We've heard of a couple banks not saying that they won't assist people that aren't already clients. So that's what we're recommending. And there's a little bit of variances in the applications that we've seen from banks as far as the exact detail they're asking for. So that's the first place to start, because if you try to pull that ahead of time, you might be getting the wrong dates or things like that. The fourth most common thing for people is the employee retention credit. This is paid on 50% of wages up to $10,000 of their wages. So a maximum $5,000 credit per employee that you retain. To be eligible for this, you have to have been at least partially or fully suspended by the government as far as part of your operations, or you have to have had a reduction in your gross revenue by 50% or more. And that can carry over for a couple quarters. It's a quarterly year-over-year comparison. That 50% reduction does not qualify for nonprofits. So the only way nonprofits can qualify is if they've been partially or fully suspended by a government order. And that one is a credit that'll go through on the payroll reports. You'll reduce your payroll tax deposits. You'll get a credit from the 941 you file, or the IRS just released a form, I believe yesterday or the day before, to be able to apply for the refund for the credit sooner than when you wait to file your quarterly payroll reports. There is the other option, which I heard 1 or 2 people mention, the payroll tax deferral. That one is you don't have to pay the employer portion of Social Security tax. So the 6.2% of the payroll, you don't have to pay that in. For March 27th payroll through the end of the year, and you can defer the payment of that. Half of it's due by December 31st, 2021, and the other half is due by December 31st, 2022. One thing I want to point out on the employee retention credit and on the payroll tax deferral is that if you receive the PPP loan, you are not eligible for those two, the credit or the deferral. So that's why you go in that order. If you get the PPP loan, you don't need to worry about the other ones because you're not eligible for them. And I think that's kind of our highlights as far as just to get people started on the process and where they should go. And I think that's all I have to point out now. So I'll hand it back to you and I'll stay on for any questions. Thank you.
Adam, thanks so much for that great information. Appreciate you hanging out for questions here at the end. We have one more presenter and then we will go to Q&A. So feel free to start jumping on chat and logging in your questions. The next presenter, last presenter here is our city manager, Michael Lamar. Michael, can you hear me? Michael, can you hear me?
He should be on his cell phone.
Michael, I'm showing you, but you're not having any options to mute or unmute. I'm not sure how you're calling in.
All right. So City Manager Michael Lamar is up next.
Just one housekeeping. Let me reiterate to you, when you are submitting your questions, submit them in one chat. I need your full name, the name of your business, what your question is, whom your question is directed to, and whether or not you would like to speak directly, or if you would like to have me read your question for you. I need all of that information in one text message, please. Thank you.
Hello, Prescott business community. I have some prepared remarks that I put together, not expecting to be the face of this call at this point, but let me run through them. Even though this has been touched upon by some of our earlier presenters, I'm going to briefly provide the practical and actual steps in the Paycheck Protection Program application process and offer some friendly and blunt advice. Number one, immediately download the Paycheck Protection Program application. Right now, it's available at the U.S. Treasury site, treasury.gov, or at our website, prescott-az.gov, under the COVID-19 information section, under the subheading Information for Businesses Paycheck Protection Program. Also, the guidelines are either up or will be up, but these guidelines will be up by the end of the day. Number two, fill out the application. It's a fairly simple and easy form, but if you need some assistance, the first person you should reach out to is either your in-house finance people or your CPA. Number three, call your local lending institution. Ask them if they're participating in the Paycheck Protection Plan, and what, if anything, in addition to the application is needed. Number four, submit the application and whatever else from a paperwork perspective the lending institution desires. Again, there is only so much money in this program, and we want Prescott businesses to get as much as possible. So file your application as soon as possible. Some lending institutions are only taking applications from their current customers, so please start with your current lending institution. Number five, ask your lender when they plan on submitting your application to the federal government. This is a key point. Many lenders are not up and running in terms of the submittal process. So this first come, first served program mandates you keep on top of your lending institutions to make sure they get your application in. Folks, please take advantage of this program. We very much want you, our local businesses, to benefit as much as humanly possible. Please stay safe and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for that. And I appreciate all our presenters for what you've offered up today on the town hall. Now, most importantly, we want to take about 45 minutes. I think we'll go ahead and extend to about 2:45 if you want to stay with us that long. But we're going to take questions that you're bringing to this panel, and the clerk will help us navigate a Q&A. Sarah?
Okay, everybody, I ask for some patience and grace from you all as I navigate through these questions. I'd like to remind you again to please submit your question in one chat with your full name, your business name, whom you would like your question directed to, and if you would like to speak or if you would like to have me read your question for you. I'm happy to just read questions. That might in fact be easier. So I appreciate you all providing as much succinct information as possible. Our first question is from Joey Powell with CrossFit Prescott. And his question is, if you are a sole proprietor, family business who does not have employees and payroll amounts because you do not have those numbers to submit for PPP, can you get money for rent?
And who would we like to direct that to? Sarah, did Joey mention who we'd like to ask?
He did not. I'm thinking perhaps the best person for the PPP is going to be Terry Drew.
Yeah, let's try Jerry Dennison. Jerry, can we unmute Jerry? Jerry, can you hear me? Did you hear that question?
Sorry, bear with us, everybody. I'm sorry.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. Thank you.
There we go. Sorry about that. Thanks, Jerry.
That's okay. Would you just repeat it again? Because I think I got all of it, but if you could repeat the question.
The question is, if you are a sole proprietor with a family business that does not have employees or payroll amounts, how do you submit for PPP, and can you get rent money in lieu of that?
The PPP does include a provision for rent. The idea is that it should only be about 25% of the expenses, but since you don't have any employees, I'm going to imagine you're either taking an owner's draw like once a month, or it's coming out of retained earnings. It's however you are paying yourself on a monthly basis that would be counting as your payroll, because you are considered one employee. So you could just list yourself as one employee, and your monthly payroll would be whatever your owner's draw is. So yes, you could apply for that, and you could definitely apply for the economic injury disaster loan as well. Both can be applied for.
Jerry, thank you so much for that answer. And I would just direct Joey, who's assuming still here on the town hall. Joey, you may want to reach directly out to the Yavapai College Small Business Development Center and talk to them about that unique situation. But thank you so much for that question. So let's move on to the next question.
The next question is from Skylar Reeves with Vivieli Hospitality Group. And this, I think, is also going to be probably directed to Jerry, because it's a PPP question as well. Jerry, is any portion of the PPP loans, particularly the forgiven part of it? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I just navigated away from that here. I'm sorry, everybody. My computer has frozen. You can bear with me for just another minute. I'm very sorry about that. Any portion of the PPP loans, particularly the forgiven portion, counted as income for the business or individual receiving the loan?
Jerry, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm just unmuting. Was taking several steps to unmute.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
Okay, so you're asking, is any portion of the PPP counted as income? So the PPP is designed to cover employee payroll and other expenses. So this could be mortgage, rent, utilities, business expenses. But the idea and the purpose of this is to keep as many of your employees on salary, on payroll as possible, even if you furloughed them. I'm not sure that answers the question. Does it count as revenue? It's a loan, so it wouldn't be, if you're thinking about taxes, I think the CPA would be the better one to answer this, but it's a loan. It isn't new revenue to the business generated through business operations. It's a loan. And if it's forgiven, that's a good question. I guess the CPA, I would throw this to your CPA who's on here. How would you treat that, Adam Rutherford? How would that get treated next year when the taxes are filed? If the loan was forgiven and the business received $50,000, $100,000 or more, and all of that was forgiven, how would that be accounted for in next year's taxes?
Hi, so this is Adam. I'm assuming people can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, so on the forgiveness, the amount that is forgiven is not considered income to the business. It's not taxable income. It specifically say that in the law. And then one thing on the question about the proprietors, if you do not have employees for payroll, you can apply for the PPP loan, and it's based off of your SE income. So if you have a Schedule C, it's based off of the self-employment net income from that entity during that period. So it would be based on your net income. So you'd still have to have income to qualify under that. The grant, you would be able to qualify for that $10,000 grant as well, based on your self-employment income. And you would just get the $10,000 no matter on the income, I believe.
Very good. Thank you, Adam. I also have Borden. You should be up, Borden. Can you shed any light on any of these questions we've covered so far?
Yeah, just confirming. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so obviously the guidance came out last night, what we'd all been waiting on for several days. Just to kind of clarify on the self-employed income, you know, I think the way they categorize that was wages, commissions, income, or net earnings, or similar compensation is what will be used to determine the loan amount for self-employed individuals. But again, to kind of go back, the portion that's going to be forgiven, they want 75% of that to go towards payroll. And so if they use the portion of that loan, regardless of how much that self-employed individual gets, if they're not applying 75% of that payroll for themselves, they're not looking at 100% forgiveness rate. Sorry, this is Borden Hoskins with Senator McSally, just to clarify. And then the other thing I also wanted to touch on is businesses are eligible for both the EIDL and the PPP loans. However, you know, you just want to be real careful. The PPP loan is designed to help retain employees on the workforce, and for that reason, it is intended to be forgiven. If you get the EIDL loan and the PPP, that can impact how much you are eligible to have forgiven under the PPP.
Hey, Borden, thank you so much for that clarification and for hanging with us here to help with these questions.
Our next question is from Bear Hegrenes from BRH Investments. Question is for Jerry. Best guess as to when 2 PG Treasury small business loans apps or the SBA apps, especially the 10K advance, will be funded and or rejected?
Oh, okay, best guess. This is like the lottery ticket. The idea is the $10,000 advance is, the idea is to have that deposited into the bank account within 3 business days, but it's coming directly from the SBA and they are totally overwhelmed. So we're asking clients who have applied to let us know how soon they actually have received that deposit. We haven't gotten any, so far no clients have received that deposit. So so I'm hoping maybe 5 business days. This is the idea, as Senator McSally has said. It's the idea is to get the money into the pockets of the small business owner as quickly as possible. That would be the advance. In terms of a response from the SBA for the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, they've told us that it should happen within 3 weeks. But again, because they're so overwhelmed, it may take longer. And I think that's the reason for the advance, to try to get that injection into the pockets of the small business owner, because it's going to take a little longer for the SBA approval to actually, or denial to actually come through.
Jerry, thank you so much for that answer. And I think we'll jump to the next question.
Yes, and Jerry, this one will be for you as well. This question comes from DJ Sheridan with the Sheridan Property Group. Can you apply for the EIDL and the PPP loan at the same time?
Yes, you can. And as I think it was the gentleman from Senator McSally's office was saying, the combination, if you get approved for both, and you can apply for both, you get approved for both, the amount forgiven is probably, they're going to take into consideration the total amount that you got and determine how much is actually going to be forgiven. But yes, you can apply for both.
Thank you, Jerry.
Next question is from Heather Demert with Miracle Man Plumbing. And I'm not sure that we have anyone on the call that will be able to answer this question, but we can certainly give it a shot. How are businesses able to get sanitizers and disinfectants, i.e. masks, etc.?
If they have a specific need, we can run it by the EOC.
And we do have an emergency operations center set up on Commerce Drive. And if you want to email us, that email is communications@prescott-az.gov, and we can see what we can do to help you with those needs for those resources.
Thank you, Mayor. Next question is from NCK Woodworks, and I've gotten a couple of these questions actually as to whether or not the documents that we've shown on screen will be available for download and print after the meeting.
Yes.
The answer is yes. We will make them available on the city's website, which is prescott-az.gov, and those will go up likely by close of business today, but please bear with us. We do plan to put those on the city's website. Next question is from Greg Raskin with Raskin's Jewelers. It's another PPP question. So when speaking about the PPP loan, different banks are asking for different information. It is more than a 2-page application. Why are the banks asking for more when they are guaranteed loans? It seems like the banks need to be asking for the same information.
You know what? That's a good question. Let's start with Borden on that. Do you want to field that first, Borden?
Sure. Happy to take it. And I want to be clear. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I want to be clear. I'm not familiar with every or really any individual circumstances on what exactly they're saying is additional information being required by the lender. But what I can tell you is that we've tried to give Treasury and the SBA as much flexibility with this legislation so that they can implement as efficiently and as quickly as possible. As my boss alluded to earlier, we're trying to use the existing tracts and technical plumbing that's available to deliver these funds. So in order to do that, we did have to make some modifications to what is typically required under SBA loans. And there's 2 different forms. I think you alluded to those earlier. There's the 2384, I think, and 2383. One's for the business that's applying, one's for the lender to fill out. And then aside from the lending form that we know that you will have to provide, obviously, additional payroll information. And so if they're having, if the lender's having some issues discerning on the documentation that's been provided, what exactly is payroll or how that's documented, that could be one issue. Another issue that is, this is just something we're going to be working through the kinks as this system gets up and running. A lot of banks have a system, or lenders, financial institutions, credit unions, whatever it may be, have a system in place that they use to process paperwork for your traditional non-SBA loans or other traditional SBA loans. And so their systems are designed to accommodate flow of information in a very specific way. And so it could be a number of issues there. And, our hope, this is our hope, obviously, is that this program gets more usage and the lenders are more comfortable with it. They'll be asking for essentially the bare minimum on requirement of documentation. That being said, I can tell you what we've explicitly laid out in the law that they should not be asking you for is any personal guarantee, no collateral, and no documentation that would normally require SBA applicants to prove that they cannot obtain credit elsewhere. And so essentially what we've tried to do is design a system that streamlines basic information on you and the business, and attestation that you were in business prior to February 15th, and then supplemental documentation so that the lender can determine your average monthly payroll to approve you or provide the proper loan amount.
I appreciate that answer. I want to ask Rory Burke to jump in as well. Rory, do you have anything to color in on this question?
I think that covers it. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think that covers it pretty well. Certainly, if there's any additional information, additional questions you have, Mr. Raskin, we'd be happy to help address it for you. But I think that pretty much covers it fairly well.
All right. Thank you, Rory. We will move on to the next question. We do have a few duplicate questions, so understand if we don't ask your specific question. We're trying to group these questions together, and if there's overlap, we may not answer your specific one because we assume it's already been answered. Sarah?
Yes, so there was another question on here about family businesses with no employees. Ms. Denniston at Yavapai College did answer that question earlier. If you missed that, you can certainly follow up with her at a later time. Thomas Tillery, I do see that you put in your name and your business, but you did not put in a question. So if you'd like to resubmit that, we can get to that as we circle around. Another question from Skylar Reeves regarding government regulations. If government regulations have affected how you do business, but you are not down a full 50%, will you be eligible for a portion of the loan that is still able to be forgiven?
Yeah, do we want to start with Rory or Borden on that one? One of you guys want to start with that? Can you hear me, Rory? Or Borden?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
go
I
ahead.
can hear you just fine. This is Borden from Senator McSally's office. Rory kind of alluded earlier to the payroll tax credit. That 50%, that is for businesses that are not going to be applying for this SBA Paycheck Protection Program. So the Paycheck Protection Program is for small businesses, employers of 500 or fewer that have experienced some sort of financial hardship or downturn as a result of the COVID pandemic. The payroll tax credit is for businesses that maybe see a better benefit of going the payroll tax deduction route, or their number of employees, or their structure of their business. 501c6s, for example, would otherwise make them ineligible for the Paycheck Protection Program.
That's great. Rory, anything to add?
No, sorry. I think that pretty much covers it. Thank you, Board.
And then Jerry, anything else here locally you want to add to that question?
No, I think he covered it well. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We'll move on to the next question.
Okay, the next question is from Katie Dufert from Ride Prescott, and this is directed to you, Mayor, and or Shari Heine. Do we have any plans to hold some Zoom meetings for business owners to brainstorm ideas for Prescott businesses to A, stay open, and B, work together to have the best possible summer season after all of this, possibly recoup some business this fall by being prepared? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you for asking. We definitely want to reach out to the business community and kind of talk about more things we can do practically to help you here locally. And so we're open to those ideas. Shari, what would you have to add to that question?
Yes, we are working on that right now, and you will be hearing from us shortly in regards to that. And we want to have the best, when this is over, party in downtown Prescott ever. I want to have the mayor co-chair that with us. But absolutely, we need to all work together in this. So just look for that information shortly.
Yeah, thank you, Shari.
The next one is from Rebecca Horneman, again asking if the information will be available. And yes, as I mentioned, we will make all of the information available on the city's website, prescott-az.gov. I will also be putting together brief meeting minutes with all of the links and emails that have been provided. Those likely will not be up until next week, though.
Recording of this whole thing.
Yes, as well as the recording of this meeting. Once that concludes, will be generated a link, and we will put that on the city's website as well. The next question comes from Tom Tillery with Dry Gulch, Arizona. Does any section 1112 6-month loan forgiveness have to be an SBA 7A loan or any 7A conforming loan?
So let's go to Jerry. Do you want to field that one?
Sure. I'm assuming this is about the PPP. It does not have to be a 7A. Is that, I mean, the 7A loan, yeah, I'm a little confused about the question, because the question about does any section of this have to be a 7A loan? And the answer is no. This is a loan separate from regular SBA standard 7A loans. This is totally different. It's the Paycheck Protection Program is a very different loan. So different qualifications, no collateral, no, I mean, even, you know, very streamlined versus a regular 7A SBA loan. I'm not sure if that answers the question or not.
It does, yes. Thank you, Jerry.
Okay.
I'm not sure who this is from because it's just your telephone number that's listed and you didn't put in any of the other information that was requested. But the question is, do any banks take clients outside of their current clients? I assume that that is asking if you can go to a bank that is not your own in order to complete this paperwork.
Jerry, do you want to grab that one again?
Sure. Yes, I know that National Bank of Arizona has said that they will accept new customers for the PPP loan. If you are not a current customer, you just need to open up an account with them. Some banks are saying no, they're going to take their own customers first. And you know, so someone else from National Bank of Arizona has said that too, priority goes to current customers. But you know, we're hearing both things from the different lenders.
Thank you for that, Jerry. Appreciate it.
Okay. The next question comes from Jay Sanford. This individual is a personal trainer and group fitness instructor that is an independent contractor for 3 gyms in the area, who has been in business in Prescott since August of 2019. Wondering if, aside from the SBA loan and unemployment, there are any other options to cover income loss.
Jerry, you want to try field that one again?
Okay. For the income loss, I would say apply for the economic injury disaster loan. Any business that has been in existence as of March 13 can apply. Independent contractors, sole proprietors, etc. So that would be the first step, is the idle loan for revenue generation, revenue loss. And if you don't, you're an independent contractor, so you don't have employees, you could apply for the PPP at the same time as an independent contractor. And if you don't have any outstanding loans, then the SBA 6-month loan payment program isn't applicable to you. There's another called the Express Bridge Loan, but that's designed for, I think, for individuals who are turned down by the SBA on the idle, who have a really, really poor credit history, a minimum credit score of 130. It has some other parameters related to it. It's a 7-year loan. I don't know which banks are. It's only through express lenders, SBA approved express lenders, the Express Bridge Loan. So that would be kind of like the last resort on revenue loss protection.
Thank you, Jerry. That first thing that you mentioned, that disaster relief, that is a $10,000 grant. Is that correct?
There's a $10,000 grant in there, but the maximum amount you can apply for is $2 million per business.
Okay.
There's also a $25,000 uncollateralized loan amount in there as well. So if you only need $25,000, they don't ask for any collateral at all. If you need more than $25,000, the SBA will accept collateral, but it's not required, and it also includes the up to $10,000 grant.
All right, thank you, Jerry. We're going to move on to the next question.
This question comes from Bob Greninger with the Prescott Western Heritage Foundation, directed to Adam Rutherford and Shari Heine. The Prescott Western Heritage Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation operating solely with volunteer staff. As a business, catering to large numbers of the general public, and given the president and governor's direction to close, are they eligible for any of the economic disaster loans and grants?
So Adam, do you want to field that one first, and then maybe Shari?
Yeah, I can field that one. So they wouldn't be eligible for the PPP without employees. or at least for the forgiveness. You could apply for the loan based on 1099 employees that you've paid, contractors, but they wouldn't get any forgiveness under that program. They can get the $10,000 grant, so they could apply for that through the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loans. If they have a reduction of, they'd have to, if they're shut down by the government, they could apply for the employee retention credit. But that's about it at that point, as far as the CARES Act things go.
Hey, thanks for that, Adam. Shari, do you have anything to add to that?
Nope, that's right about right. 501c3s can only apply for the EDL loans. So.
Very good. Jerry, did you have any more to color in on that one? We're going to pull up Jerry here. Jerry, do you have anything? Do you have anything to add to that?
No, that I agree with what has been said. That's
okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Move on to the next question.
Yes, I'm scrolling through these here. We've got quite a few duplicates. My apologies. Mayor, this question is directed to you. Business began being impacted well before the stay-at-home recommendation from Governor Ducey. Over half of the revenue was drastically decreased, and the remainder also halted as their doors are currently closed. I see the name is Carmel Lindsay, but I'm not sure what the business is. They've negotiated with their landlord, but still had to make the tough call to let go of the lease on part of their building, as they simply could not cover the expenses. Sorry, this is a very long one.
So Sarah, this is dealing with rent on a property here in Prescott. One of the things I would say is in regard to rent, that is eligible under the paycheck. It's kind of a misnomer, but Paycheck Protection Program. When you apply for that, you can use a portion of that money for reimbursement on rent and other overhead like mortgage and utilities and insurance. And I probably should, since that was a politician answer, Jerry, do you want to add to that? Somebody who is a business owner that's struggling with rent, what would you suggest?
I would suggest they apply for the EIDL, because that is exactly what it's designed for. It's working capital loan for 6 months to cover rent, utilities, mortgage, all of your business expenses in addition to payroll. So that one is designed for that, and it's 6 months worth of working capital.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jerry.
That's all that I have here that is not a duplicate question that we've already answered. If anybody has questions that have not been answered, please again type your name, your business name, and your question in the chat box so that we can get those answered for you. Mr. Tillery, I see your question, and I believe that we've already answered it regarding the Section 1112 requirements for payments on new existing 7A loans for 6 months. Does this apply only to SBA generated loans or to any bank loan that qualifies as a 7A loan?
Let's go with Jerry on that. Jerry, could you field that one, please?
Yes. The 7A loan is not just any bank loan. It is only issued through an SBA approved lender who is approved to do 7A loans. So that does only apply to SBA 7A loans. It also applies, I think it's Community Reinvestment Act loans or something. There's another parameter in there, but it only applies to loans that are backed by the Small Business Administration. So a commercial bank loan, it's issued by Chase or B of A or any of the banks that is not an SBA backed loan, does not qualify for the 6 months of payment by the SBA. You'd have to get relief through the EIDL or the PPP or other resources.
Very good. Thanks, Jerry. And just for some clarity on this, you know, there's multifaceted solutions here that we're talking about. I know it can be kind of confusing, but when we talk about the Paycheck Protection Program, it's important for everyone to realize that within that program, there's a good portion of that money that will be forgiven. And so I want us, when you're talking to your accountant, or if you're over at the Yavapai College Small Business Development Center, or wherever you're going for help on this, focus on the fact that PPP allows a good portion of free money there. And that's really where we should focus initially versus, you know, I hope we don't have to take out too many loans to kind of dig our way out of that. All right, we're gonna take another question.
This question comes from Eric Knight with Prescott Wilder House. I'm sorry. This is for Senator McSally's office. Contractor employees were supposed to be included in the calculation for employees. However, last night they mentioned the guidance saying they do not get included. The application still shows them as included. Do they count or not?
Borden, can you hear me? Field that question?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So pursuant to the guidance that was received last night, yes, on multiple provisions, they said if you're the employer, you cannot count independent contractors as your payroll. And then later in the guidance, they state that, you know, for 1099 employees, that part is counted in the payroll. So I think, and I don't want to get ahead of Treasury on this, I think what they're getting at there is maybe depends on how the contractors are paid and maybe what the exact definition of independent contractor is. So we've gotten a few calls on that outside of this phone call, and we're running that down as we speak for more clarity, both so the lenders can process the applications the right way and that the borrowers know, you know, what they're entitled to. And if it's okay, I would like to just add on the previous question. I think somebody had submitted a question is the loan deferment applies only to SBA loans. And specifically to Paycheck Protection Program loans, they do have an inherent built-in 6-month minimum deferment period. But something that Senator McSally worked on in part of the CARES Act is what's called troubled debt restructuring, TDR. It's a provision in Title IV of the bill to give the lenders outside of SBA loans, so any loan that they have, whether it's a commercial loan or a personal loan, or even if it's a residential mortgage loan, some flexibility to work with their existing customer bases to find a avenue forward without creating unnecessary hits and negative reports on credits, or you know, being able to adjust these loans and be flexible for the immediate or foreseeable future to allow people to make payments on other loans that they had outside of the SBA program.
That's great. Thanks for that clarity. Appreciate it, Borden.
Our next question is from Christine Resnick with Jewish Community Foundation. This is for Mr. Rutherford. For individuals receiving a Social Security check that qualify to receive the money in the mail and want to in turn donate these funds to a nonprofit, can they deduct this as a charitable contribution, since it is also her understanding that this money will not be taxed?
All right, thank you for that question. Adam?
Yes, so the $1,200 is what I'm assuming she's referring to, that everybody's going to get if they qualify. If you receive that money, it is not taxable to you. That's correct, because it is a credit technically on your 2020 tax return that you're getting early. If you were to donate that, there's two things. They added this year a $300 above the line deduction for charitable donations. So you would get that if you don't itemize. If you do itemize, you'd get the $1,200 as charitable contribution that way. I think that.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam.
We have 2 more questions, and then we will be ending the Q&A portion of this town hall. Our next question comes from John Lutz at Van Gogh's Ear Gallery. His question is, how is the total amount available to a business on the EIDL determined above and beyond the 10? I think Jerry's probably.
Jerry, can you answer that one, please?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure, Jerry, thanks. How is the total amount available to a business on the EIDL determined above and beyond the 10,000?
We don't have specific information on that, but there are, when you go through the application, and this is another change in the application as of today, there are now just 3 line items that are being asked for. One is the 12 months prior revenue before the disaster. Another is your cost of goods sold. And then today they added your operational expenses for the last 12 months. So they're looking at those 3 figures to try to estimate what you need for working capital for the next 6 months. And I'm those are the only numbers that are being asked for. The rest of it is all about business and the business ownership and details on the business itself. So I am surmising, we have not been told, but I am surmising that the estimation of the amount that you will be given, awarded in terms of a loan, is based on those 3 figures.
Very good. Thank you, Jerry. We'll go to our last question.
This is from Collective Karma again. The question is there any statement calling for patience from business owners when it comes to rent so that they can have time to hear back from the SBA on their loans? This business owner applied on Monday, but has not heard back as of yet.
Jerry, you want to answer that one?
Sure. The only, patience definitely is the operative word here. The only way to check right now that we know of to check on the status of your application is to either call the 800 number that is listed on the SBA, the disaster website, the SBA disaster website, or to send an email to disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. We have heard that some people have called that 800 number and been on the phone for 4.5 to 5 hours before someone finally got through to them. There were something like 300 people ahead of them on the call. So it's probably better to send the email to disastercustomerservice@sba.gov and see how long it's going to take for somebody to respond to you. That's the best I can say. We have, unfortunately, patience is the operative word here.
Thank you, Jerry.
That was our last question. I want to thank everyone for bearing with us on that. If you had a question that did not get addressed, I noticed a number of duplicate questions, and so we did not readdress those. We will again be posting all of the slides and information from today's meeting on the city's website, specifically on the COVID page, which can be found at prescott-az.gov/COVID-19. If you did have a question that was somehow overlooked, I greatly apologize. You are welcome to put that into the chat now, and we can see if we can get those addressed offline. Please include your contact information for me in that question. And now I will turn it back over to the mayor for some closing remarks.
All right. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for jumping on. I'm going to go ahead and go to video so I can look everybody in the eye. Thanks so much, everyone, for participating today in this town hall. We hope it was helpful. We would love to hear your feedback, so please reach out to City Hall. You can email us at communications@prescott-az.gov. We'd love to hear from you in regards to how this went, how we can improve. We anticipate hopefully doing more town halls in the future. Thanks also for your patience with all the technology issues that we had today. I want to quickly mention a new executive order that just came out today from Governor Ducey's office. And this, just briefly, you should go to the whole thing, but I just want to give you a highlight of what the executive order is about. It looks like it's giving more clarity in terms of those businesses that are non-essential in this case. And that would be barbers, cosmetology, hairstyling, nail salons, aesthetic salons, tanning salons, tattoo parlors, spas, and massage parlors are now a part of those businesses that are being asked to cease operations as of 5 p.m. Saturday. I want to give our panel just a quick opportunity to have any closing remarks that they would like before we close the town hall. I want to thank all of our panel members for being on today. Rory Burke, can you hear me there, Rory? Would you like to conclude the town hall with any remarks here?
Yes, I'd just like to say thank you very much, Mayor Mangarelli, and to Senator McSally, and to Yavapai Small Business Development Center, NA Council of Governments, Chamber of Commerce, and everyone else joining us today. If there's any questions you have and anything we can help connect you with resource-wise and information, please reach out to me, and we will be happy to get on that as quick as we possibly can.
Great. How about Borden from Senator McSally's office?
Yeah, sure. I would reiterate Rory's statements, and also just say, you know, the senator has been, I would say, working harder than I've ever seen any politician work in the last 3 weeks. And, you know, our full focus right now is implementation of phase 3, which, you know, sounds like everybody's kind of on the same page. There's a lot of good programs out there. There's a lot of options for a lot of different size or types of entities. But as we get through implementing this in the initial time, we're probably going to see a lot of kinks, as we've already seen today. But, you know, we're going to keep working through this. Implementation is the key here, keeping people on payroll, keeping small businesses around. And, you know, depending on how the next couple of weeks go, there's been a lot of talk, at least in Washington, D.C., about a phase 4. And so everything that's brought to our attention now is certainly helpful, and we'll, you know, continue to focus on implementation, but also as needed, turn our attention to whatever comes next. And if we can be helpful, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thanks, Borden. It's my understanding that Senator McSally is still on the line. Senator, can you hear me?
Oh, I still have
I am. Yeah, thanks, Mayor. That's okay. No, look, Borden's been also around the clock engaging with Treasury to make sure that this is implemented. And I know there's a lot of information that's being thrown at small business owners as they're all struggling. Just one final point is this Paycheck Protection Program is one of the most foundational parts of this bill, with the intent that you can get forgivable loans and you can get them quickly from your local financial institution. Look, the bill was just signed into law last Friday. It could have been a few days earlier, but we're now here a week later, and banks and credit unions, financial institutions are starting to try and make this happen. They don't have to wait for approval by the SBA. So working directly with you, that is a very strong avenue. You don't have to pay it back as long as you meet the criteria. So be patient with your banks and credit unions, as they just got guidance last night and they're trying to figure this out as quickly as possible. You know, great for the Small Business Development Center to always provide support and advice to all of you. But as you're applying for things, make sure you really keep in mind what PPP can do for you. And a forgivable loan, if it works for you, is always going to be better than one you got to pay back. So you may be doing it all the above, but one will affect the other. As far as what's forgivable. So we are here to serve you. Please keep us, you know, let us know if you have any issues or concerns. If this money in the PPP does run out, it's because it's a successful program, keeping small businesses going. And when we think about phase 4, adding to it or extending the timeline if we need to, are the things that will be definitely top of mind to make sure that all small businesses can survive. And get out the other end here, and we can get our economy going back on track the way it was before this pandemic hit.
Senator, thank you so much for hanging on the whole town hall with us through the questions, and really, really appreciate your efforts out there.
Absolutely. God bless you guys.
Thank you. God bless. All right, we're going to move on to Jerry. Closing comment? Jerry?
Yes, I'm unmuting myself, sorry, or getting unmuted. So yes, just to reiterate same things that others have said. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I agree with Senator McSally to do the analysis. Get with your CPA, your tax accountant, and do the analysis to determine which direction is going to be better for you. Do you go with the PPP and not do the EIDL? Do you do both? Also do some analysis to figure out how long you can stay in business, what kind of working capital you need, not just for 6 months, but 9 months in a year. This is going to be an extensive situation, especially if you had to close. How long is it going to take you to ramp up? So have an idea of what it is you actually need, and don't assume that a $10,000 cash injection is going to be sufficient just by itself. So we're happy to help businesses do that analysis. We can work with them. We have to do this remotely, but we certainly are here to help in any way that we can. Just reach out to the Small Business Development Center at Yavapai College.
Thanks so much, Jerry. Adam Rutherford, can you hear me, Adam? Any closing comments?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you again for having us on here. I guess my main comment is I know a lot of places have resources. We've been sending out emails to all of our clients pretty regularly this week with our analysis and updates on all of these provisions. And we will be posting those to our website as well. It's prescottaccountants.com, where we have that, and we have that summary where business owners can go and look and what steps we recommend to follow as far as which programs to apply for first and where to go through.
Thank you, Adam.
Yep, thank you.
Shari Heine.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And again, I want to thank you and our city manager, Michael Lamar, and the whole team and all the guest speakers for today. And I just want to reiterate and remind everyone that we are all going through this at the same time. And this touches all of us. So all of us working together can get through this. And we will be working with anyone and everyone to help support the business community and bringing everyone together.
Thank you, Shari. Terry Drew. Can you hear me, Terry? Let's jump to Michael Lamar.
Mayor, I'd just like to reiterate what I said earlier, and I know you've said, and a lot of people on this call. We are committed here at Prescott to being here for you during this crisis. We have two missions in my mind right now. Is keeping people safe and healthy and helping our business community prosper and be propped up. Whatever we can do to facilitate information or be a clearinghouse for your questions or concerns, call us. We're here for you. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. It's great technology as we slide back in here. And Terry Drew, can you hear me, Terry?
Yes, sir, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, and my first is gratitude always to yourself and everybody who put this together. And let's focus on recovery. And recovery includes labor. I really appreciate what Senator McSally said and bringing those folks back to work and working through a process for sustainability of labor. We struggle in rural areas, especially during recessions and hard times. Historically, folks will migrate back to cities, and we don't want that. We want to sustain our communities, and we want to build and move forward. And my new plan B is to breathe.
Well, thank you, Terry. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this virtual town hall meeting. Some great information today. I want to thank all of our speakers, our elected officials, and especially our staff here who've helped produce this town hall. Please, again, remember the website, prescott-az.gov/COVID-19. Stay home, stay healthy, stay connected. Please know we're here for you, and we'll get through this together. God bless you all, and God bless Prescott.